Hey Wargamers, welcome back to the channel, Death from Above Wargaming. I'm Kevin, and tonight I'm introducing to you a new series we're bringing to the channel called Crosshairs On. This is going to be a fun little play on the official publications called Spotlight On, which cover a canon unit from the BattleTech history. It's sort of, its origins, its unit composition, and some of the personalities. We decided, why don't we do the same for some of the units that we show you guys, our house units that we bring to the table every week. And it was a little fun way to kind of spend some project time in quarantine when we can't actually play on the tabletop. So here we go. Tonight, I'm starting off with my original unit, my favorite, the Redstone Rangers. They're a unit I completely made up out of thin air, and with most of the units you see on our channel, right? Some of them fit into a parent unit that exists in the universe, but ultimately everything we kind of create usually fits in quietly to the canon histories. We don't try to really take away or create alternate histories. We just sort of like to fold in our units so it kind of, brings that typical fan fiction joy where you can kind of insert your little piece into the universe. And Redstone Rangers was my first attempt at that, and I hope you guys enjoy the content tonight. And we're probably going to be doing some more of these on the different units we have. So here we go.
The Redstone Rangers were registered with the Mercenary Review Board in 3028 as a private company for hire. Despite their independent affiliation, they have been so closely allied with the Taurian Concordat that they are often presumed to be a house unit of the Taurian Defense Force. In fact, nearly all of their employment history has been under the patronage of the TDF, having only held a handful of contracts for other regional interests. The cause for their close ties goes back to their roots, before turning mercenary, when they first organized as a coalition force of nobles, planetary militia, and freelancers, united to bring law and order to a wayward frontier colony they called home. Their home was divided among the system of Stone's Throw, a small and independent periphery colony settled during the early Star League era. The system maintained its autonomy up to this point conveniently inside a jump's distance between the borders of the Taurian Concordat and the Oregon Coalition. However, by the 3020s, isolationist policies of the Concordat and upheaval within the Reach had left their system astray from its once prosperous trade routes. While no strangers to hard living as was to be expected in the frontier, it had a notable impact on the continued security for the region. During this time, Belliard Redstone was presiding as the ancestral governor to Redstone, the system's largest settlement on the third and primary planet, often called by the same name. Despite the effort of Belliard and his local allies, they could not stop magistrates and corporations in the outer system that were growing friendly to the recent influx of smugglers and black markets, allowing their settlements to be used for criminal enterprises. By mid-3025, this situation had developed into a crisis when a pirate syndicate led by a group called the Dark Suns rose among the corruption to seize control over these outer settlements at gunpoint. Belliard Redstone was faced with a clear and imminent invasion as the pirates expanded their domain inward, and so he petitioned the remaining nobles to unify as a coalition for their liberation. In forming a newly minted Stone's Throw coalition, he nominated his son and captain of Redstone's guard, Kin Redstone, to lead a joint resistance effort. Kin's wide acceptance by the coalition made his first task none the less difficult, which required him to assimilate several disparate militias, house guards, and security forces into a single cohesive unit under his command. However, they were spearheaded by a handful of ancestral mechs that the nobles held, and he had assembled a motley rabble yet formidable force he now dubbed the Redstone Rangers. Through the remainder of 3025 and into 3026, the Rangers fought a guerrilla campaign to oust the Dark Suns, using their affinity with the local terrain to counteract the Dark Suns' superior firepower and wealth. By combining small unit tactics with their ferocious spirit and a support of the general populace, the Rangers were able to hold the Suns to their initial gains. However, internal doubts had risen as to whether the coalition could financially sustain the fighting longer than the Dark Suns could hire more guns. It was by luck that this never came to an answer, since agents from the Taurian Concordat had contacted the coalition when their hours seemed most dire, and they had requested a meeting by the end of the year. Although hesitant they might trade one master for another, the coalition had no choice but to hear them out. The Concordat had revealed their plans to expand their frontier claims, placing Stone's Throw well within their territory, but in doing so they wanted to form a mutual pact which would allow Stone's Throw to retain its domestic autonomy. Seeing few alternatives, an agreement was reached where the Concordat would aid Stone's Throw in providing weapons, hardware, and advisors to their efforts. In return, the coalition would integrate as a provincial system of the Concordat, providing food, supplies, and any necessary aid to the new settlements proposed in the neighboring region. At the onset of 3027, an infusion of arms and training rapidly allowed the Rangers to renew their operational efforts and take the offensive against the Suns. The effectiveness of their Concordat backing was immediately transparent, and the Dark Suns had little choice but to cede to the Rangers' momentum. In a matter of months, the tables had turned in the coalition's favor as the Suns now became the guerrilla resistance. This culminated when the Suns caught the coalition off guard in a final act of punitive terror. The Suns had infiltrated Redstone's aquifer network, threatening contamination of the system's key water supply unless Kin and his Ranger command were handed over in chains. However, they did not anticipate that by effectively holding the population hostage, they would trigger a widespread public reaction like they had never seen before. Quiet communities of hard-nosed farmers and workers had suddenly turned vigilante, and the Suns were overtaken in a wave of frontier justice by outraged mobs. The few remaining Suns and their loyalists had presumably seen their cause was lost, and traces of their former influence was rapidly fleeing from the system. By 3028, the Taurian Defense Force had assumed more oversight in the regional security to protect their new colonial efforts. This promised ongoing peace and prosperity for Stone's Throw, but also questioned the financial obligation of the coalition to maintain a standing military force. Having defeated the Suns, the people of Stone's Throw honored the Rangers as liberators, but they were becoming little more than parade props again. It was during this time that Kin Redstone seized his opportunity to break free of a political future and led a core contingent of the Rangers to remodel themselves as a mercenary unit. In November of 3028, they incorporated as such and moved their base of operations to Laconis in the Taurian Concordat. Through the subsequent decade until 3039, the Rangers had secured several long-term contracts through their allied connections in the TDF Corps, and a handful were instrumental in growing their reputation. As a trustworthy asset, they had been handpicked for highly sensitive operations in which the Concordat needed plausible deniability, and therefore were given key roles in lost tech recovery and infiltration through intersphere territory. It is rumored they have actually begun to work with the Taurian Ministry of Intelligence and their branch of Special Task Groups. This would be justified, as despite going toe-to-toe with some of the elite units of the Inner they have managed to highlight their talent for adaptation and survival against all odds while doing so in a discreet manner. The progressive infusion of high-tech salvage, lucrative bounties, and hard-fought battle experience have proven invaluable to the Rangers' growth and success. And with the 3040s now on the horizon, they appear well prepared and motivated to face new challenges. Most of the Ranger officers hail from the original Coalition days and were minor nobles of Stone's Throw, tracing ancestral lines to some long-forgotten pioneer explorer. However, a frontiersman mentality is entrenched in the culture and personality of every man or woman. There's a pervasive motto to get the job done, no matter the odds, and it's expected of all members to develop and rely on their own resourcefulness before enlisting the help of others. The hiring of recruits is often selective due to this self-determining quality being an innate requirement. For example, many of the veteran and officer pilots won't allow a technician to work on their mechs. Having spent years scrounging their own salvage and patchworking in the field, they don't trust anyone but themselves to maintain these great arbiters of their life and death. The majority of the company's drills and training are spent in rugged woodland and mountain country that is reminiscent of the Redstone wilds. They will range off the land for days at a time to hone their survival instincts, sleeping in their cockpits and bringing limited food and supplies. They even go so far as bringing hand-drawn maps for the exercises, dismissing dropship and satellite support unless emergency demands it. In concert with their training, they pursue intimate familiarity with the local terrain, taking every advantage of the natural and man-made features to gain the upper hand on adversaries. This developed in their roots of guerrilla warfare and hit-and-run tactics that often define the Ranger approach to combat. However, they are not shy of a stand-up fight and they know when they can take the odds. As such, the Rangers will field flexible mech lances that notably lean toward toughness and mobility no matter the weight. Beyond some of the original ancestral mechs, their mech bays will often hold an eclectic array of chassis acquired by any means of salvage, transnational markets, or lost tech recovery. The Rangers have commonly fluctuated around a dozen or more battle mechs to half that number in the worst of times. Although during the Coalition years they were supported by infantry, ground, and air assets as much as the resistance could muster, as mercenaries the Rangers will exclusively travel with a company of 3 battle mech lances when at full strength. At the best of times, they have a few rookie pilots in reserve or a few backup mechs in cold storage in Laconis. They also operate their own Union-class dropship, Warhorse, which was commandeered from the Dark Suns in their homeworld's liberation. The Ranger's insignia features the red mountain sigil used by House Redstone, which is a symbolic feature of their home planet and the family's actual namesake. This is wrapped in the horns and stars of the Concordat, which pays homage to their patrons, but the symbol is inverted as a reminder of their autonomy. The company color scheme is a tiger stripe camouflage of blood red, black, and light gray. The camouflage scheme provides a viable disguise against the backdrop of Redstone's prominent mountain range, which features high concentrations of a red mineral that can even be seen from orbit. A second son of Redstone's governor Belliard Redstone, Kin took the mercenaries' path rather than dwell as a bureaucrat in his brother's realm or give cause for family strife. From an early age, Kin only dreamed of piloting the family's PHX-1 Phoenix Hawk, which was presumed to go to his brother when his father passed. It had been passed down at least a dozen generations since the first Redstones took their name when they settled the system, sometime in the lost histories of the Star League. Kin was delighted to learn, though, as time passed, that his brother cared more for politics and little for old machines of war. So instead, Kin was granted this blood right when he came of age, and Belliard bestowed him the venerated battlemech, provided that he followed the tutelage of his trusted lieutenants, who were minor nobles and mech warriors of their own merit. Kin spent his adolescence coming to be known as Red, a cadet officer in the Planetary Guard and working to earn the respect of his fellow comrades and nobles. When his father's domain was threatened in 3025, his rank was promptly elevated from a junior lieutenant. The governor broke precedent to appoint Kin as the captain of the guard, a role traditionally held by the governor themselves. Belliard recognized his son would be better suited to carry the mantle if it came to battle, and so at age 18, Captain Kin Red Redstone was thrust into leading the response to the pirate invasion. During the Stone's Throw Coalition campaign, Kin proved a capable mech warrior and field commander. With the newly formed Ranger force under his lead, he enlisted a strategy of patience and calculated strikes, spraying from the back country, chipping away at the enemy, and melting away before defenses and counterattacks could be organized. By the time the Dark Suns got wiser, Governor Belliard had managed to secure an agreement with the Taurian Concordat. This gave Kin the tools he needed to make a stronger offensive stance against the Suns, and eventually drove them out of the system with the aid of the strong-willed people of Stone's Throw. The Rangers consolidated their success for a good year while the Concordat's domain of control expanded, and eventually it became questionable as to whether the Rangers would be required to serve in the same capacity. When Kin proposed the mech warriors of the Coalition break out as mercenaries, nearly every pilot stood behind their captain and has to this day. Kin then made the controversial decision to transfer the company headquarters to Laconis where they could better secure information and trade. With the contacts he maintained in the TDF, he had begun to negotiate some long-term contracts that would forge a daring and lucrative path for the company in the hands of the Concordat. Through the process of his many exploits, he had many close calls on his own life, never one to take a backseat to his leadership. And within the last year, in an undisclosed Capellan system, it was reported that Kin had to eject from and ditch his beloved Phoenix Hawk in an operation that had gone south. However, the company countered in the operation and claimed a victory, and through gracious salvage afterward, he was able to claim rights on a new HGN 733P Highlander. Not planning to take a rest, and with the company at his back that grows stronger and more versatile every day, Kin will continue to push his reclusive frontiersmen further onto the galactic stage.
All right, there it is, the Redstone Rangers. I hope you guys enjoyed the content as much as I did creating it. And leave any suggestions, comments below. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Stay safe out there, folks. Happy wargaming.